The truth didn't whisper. It slapped me in the face wearing red lipstick. I was folding laundry when I found it, tucked carelessly in the corner of his gym bag like it didn't matter. A white shirt with a deep red stain on the collar. Not wine, not sauce. Lipstick, bright, bold, not mine. My hands froze mid-air. My breath caught. And just like that, the air changed. She cried in silence, but it wasn't grief. It was the sound of something inside her finally waking up. At first, I wanted to believe it was innocent. Maybe it was a mistake, a smudge, a mix-up. But then I remembered William didn't make mistakes. He made choices. Calculated, clean, polished choices. And this wasn't accidental. This was a message, a declaration, one he didn't think. I was smart, or brave, enough to decode. But he never saw it coming, because the woman he underestimated was about to become his reckoning. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I smiled like always, made dinner, kissed him on the cheek, let him lie to me with those surgical hands that once held my body like it was sacred. But now, I was nothing to him, and I could feel it in every glance, every delayed reply, every new excuse. Still, I said nothing, because my silence was my answer, and silence is where strategy begins. I started watching him, studying him, the way he always showered as soon as he got home, the calls he took in the garage, the nights he worked late, but came back without so much as a yawn. I remembered the way he thought I would stay no matter how invisible he made me feel. That was his biggest mistake, thinking I was still the woman who worshipped him. Days passed. I dug deeper, looked at his phone when he was asleep. Not one message from me saved, but dozens from her, Rebecca. Her name made my stomach turn. She wasn't just younger, she was deliberate, strategic, the kind of woman who didn't trip into someone else's marriage. She planned it all, and William? He followed. I found the messages. At 3:12 a.m., hidden under a false contact name, Dr. Lee. But Dr. Lee didn't send heart emojis. Dr. Lee didn't call him babe, or joke about how the wife still thinks you're working. My hands trembled. My mouth went dry. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was psychological. They mocked me, planned around me, erased me. He betrayed me. And worse, he enjoyed it. And yet, I didn't scream. I didn't wake him up. I took screenshots, sent copies to my private email. I was quiet, but not weak. I was devastated, but focused, because now it wasn't about heartbreak. It was about control. If he wanted war, I'd give him something far more precise. A plan. I was deceived, yes, but I wasn't going down quietly. Watched as he kissed our daughter goodbye the next morning. The same hands that held someone else hours earlier now brushed against her hair, and something in me snapped. Not out of rage, but clarity. If he could live a double life, so could I. Only mine wouldn't be secret. It would be strategic, documented, and when I moved, it would be final. So I started collecting everything. Phone records, credit card bills, GPS logs. I even visited his hospital under another name to ask questions. He had no idea what I was building. No idea that every lie he told was becoming a brick in the wall I'd use to trap him. Stories of betrayal don't always end in heartbreak. Some end in fire. What he didn't know, and what Rebecca surely never imagined, is that revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, surgical, and mine had already begun, before either of them realized I'd woken up. But the real twist? It wasn't just the affair that would destroy him. It was the DNA test, the one I was about to run behind his back. Because if what I suspected was true, then this story was just getting started. They didn't just cheat on me, they performed it like theater, right in front of my trust. It started subtly, like most betrayals do. A look exchanged across a hallway, a laugh that lasted too long, the way he suddenly stopped inviting me to hospital events. I was becoming invisible, piece by piece. And still, he thought I would stay, faithful, loyal, stupid. But I wasn't watching with love anymore. I was documenting, recording, counting the moments where the mask slipped. And, oh, he never saw it coming. They were bold, sloppy. Rebecca would leave her perfume on his scrubs. She left her coffee cup in his car. She even smiled at me once, slow and smug, at a charity gala, like she already knew she'd won. And William? He watched the whole thing with that cold detachment I used to mistake for composure. That night, she cried in silence, not because of the affair, but because she realized her pain was entertainment to them. 1 week before our anniversary, I found a receipt for a beachfront hotel in his glove box. Not in my name. 2 guests. Check-in. The night I was supposed to be waiting for him with candles and dinner. I didn't confront him. I just tucked it away, alongside the photos, the screenshots, the phone logs. She planned it all, down to the moment he'd choke on his own lies. That same night, I overheard a call. He was in the kitchen, speaking low, but I caught it. Her name, their plans, and then the final punch. She still thinks we're doing the Cape Cod dinner. They laughed. together, mocking me like I was a character in their little sitcom, and I stood in the hallway shaking, realizing how far they'd gone. He betrayed me, and then made it a joke. But the worst betrayal wasn't the affair. It was the rewriting of our history. He began telling people I was difficult, that I was unwell, planting little seeds, so that when I finally cracked, they'd all say, "See, he warned us. That's how they do it. Quiet character, assassination." And nobody believed her, not yet, but they would. I dug deeper, accessed our shared drive, found deleted emails, meeting invites to private wellness retreats. I even found a folder, hidden inside a folder, full of photos. Her in his office, her wearing a stethoscope that wasn't hers, her holding the coffee mug I gave him on our 5th anniversary. I found the messages, but the images, they burned. Worse, I started moving money, quietly, legally, protecting assets. I changed my passwords, scanned our documents, met with a financial advisor under the name Harper. I smiled through dinners and made polite small talk, but inside I was deceived, and I was done pretending otherwise. The woman he thought he married, she was already packing her power. He once told me, "You're too sensitive, too emotional," as if my intuition was a flaw. But the truth is, I wasn't broken. I was being broken, intentionally, slowly. And now that I could see clearly, I knew exactly how to flip the narrative. I wasn't just going to expose him. She exposed him through precision, through calm, through receipts. And the more evidence I gathered, the more I realized something was still off. Something bigger than infidelity. The timing didn't add up. The distance, the tension during our fertility treatments, the way he avoided eye contact every time I mentioned our daughters. I knew betrayal ran deep. But this was deeper. And I was about to cut it open. Because sometimes betrayal isn't just about who they sleep with. It's about what they hide in plain sight. And I was ready to see everything. He didn't just cheat on me, he rewrote the future of our children without telling me. I was sitting in my car, engine off, hands shaking, staring at a single sheet of paper. The DNA results had come in, not from some shady site, but from a private lab, discreet, professional, undeniable. I ran the test because something felt wrong, not just with him, with how things unfolded during IVF, the delays, the cold detachment, the way he flinched when people said our daughter looked like him. I trusted my gut, and now the truth came out. The paper said it plainly, no genetic relation between William and our daughter. Zero. I blinked, reread, held my breath like that would change what I saw, but it didn't. I found the messages, yes, but this was a betrayal rooted in science, in biology, in lies told in sterile rooms under fluorescent lights. He deceived me on a level I didn't even know was possible. The tears came later, not for him, but for her, for my daughter, for the child I fought to carry, for the sacrifices I made. And the whole time, the man I loved was hiding a secret behind his white coat. He let me believe he was the father, let me hope, let me dream, while he played God with my body and my future. And why? Because of a heart condition he never told me about. Because he planned it all. I started digging, quietly, pulling records from our fertility clinic, matching dates, donors, file numbers. He had overridden the process. He'd used his influence as a surgeon to falsify paperwork, and I knew it wasn't just me. This went deeper. Other women, other families, other lives touched by his ego. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. This was medical fraud. He broke me first, and now I was watching it unravel one paper cut at a time. The man who once held my hand during embryo transfers had lied with every breath. He said it was our journey, our baby, our miracle, and all along, he was protecting his image, not our family. He thought I would stay, even after this. He thought I'd cry, scream, and then get over it. But he didn't understand who he was dealing with anymore. I contacted a former nurse from the clinic, off the record. At first, she was hesitant, but when I showed her what I found, she paled. She told me whispers had circulated for years, quiet cases swept under the rug, donors switched, data altered. And William? He wasn't alone, but he was at the center of it. That was the moment I knew. She exposed him wouldn't just be a phrase, it would be a headline. I wasn't just a woman scorned anymore. I was a witness, a mother, a ticking bomb wrapped in pearls. And I wasn't going to whisper. I was going to build a case. Names, dates, files, backups, allies. Because this wasn't just about my story. It was about justice. For me, for others. For every woman who ever signed a consent form and got a lie in return. She cried in silence. Yes, but now she was speaking in data, in affidavits, in undeniable truth. And if he thought he'd get away with rewriting my child's story, he clearly hadn't read the right ending. Because revenge wasn't just personal now. It was legal, ethical, global. And here's the twist. He still didn't know I knew. Not yet. He kissed me goodbye that morning like everything was fine. Like he still had control. Like I was nothing to him. just a memory on his way to something shinier. But I was no longer playing the role he cast me in. I was rewriting the entire script, and when I served him the results, I wouldn't be alone. He thought I'd break. Instead, I built a case that would destroy him completely. I didn't go to the police first. I went to the system he thought was untouchable, Ashford Medical Center, the place where his name was etched on plaques, where nurses lowered their voices when he walked by. But I wasn't there as his wife anymore. I was there as his reckoning. He never saw it coming, but I had turned every lie into a weapon, and now it was time to aim. The first step was delicate. I contacted Helen, the former nurse who had helped me quietly. She introduced me to a medical ethics investigator named Marcus. He didn't flinch when I showed him the documents, the DNA results, the signed consent forms. He just nodded, pressed record, and said, "Tell me everything." She exposed him calmly, one folder at a time. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice under oath. Together, we traced financial transactions hidden in hospital records, payments to unnamed labs, altered donor files, medical notes William had personally signed, changing patient IDs, flipping genetic markers. It was surgical fraud, high level, clinical, and worst of all, routine. I wasn't his only victim. I was just the only one who hadn't stayed silent. The truth came out, and it was uglier than I'd ever imagined. I met with 2 other women, both patients from the same clinic, both lied to about their IVF treatments. One cried when I showed her the proof. The other trembled with rage. None of us had ever met before, but we were all connected by one man's obsession with control. We formed a coalition, a voice he couldn't dismiss anymore. Nobody believed her on her own, but now we were louder together. Ashford tried to block the investigation. Lawyers sent warnings. I got calls from concerned board members. They underestimated how far I was willing to go. I gave Marcus everything: passwords, emails, recorded conversations, even Rebecca's messages mocking the process. I stopped being afraid the moment I realized he broke me first, and this was me putting the pieces back where they belonged. The more we uncovered, the more the case grew. Fraud, malpractice, ethical violations. William's career wasn't just hanging by a thread, it was already falling, and yet, he walked through our home like nothing was happening, still smiling, still lying, still thinking I would stay. I studied him like a stranger, like a man whose entire world was about to collapse, and didn't even know the floor beneath him was gone. We secured whistleblower protection for Helen, got a court order for hospital records, built a timeline that linked William's login credentials to unauthorized medical edits. Marcus told me, "This is bigger than one man." I nodded, but deep down I knew. This started with one man, and I was deceived because I trusted him, because I believed him when he said, "We're in this together," and now? I was in a room with lawyers, ethics boards, and federal agents laying out a case against the man who once held my hand in the IVF room. I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I delivered facts. I showed photos. I connected dots. So I showed him the proof, but not to his face. Not yet. That moment would come later, when the lights were brighter and the cameras were rolling. They thought I was emotional, fragile, easy to dismiss, but she planned it all. The silence, the evidence, the exposure, and the best part? He still believed the lie he created about me, that I'd never fight back, that I'd protect him, that I was weak. But weakness was the lie, and the truth, it was about to be served, in public. He built a legacy on lies. I built the case that would bury it. Everything was ready, not almost, not halfway. Ready, taped, backed up, notarized, documented, and cross-referenced. I had folders in my closet, encrypted drives hidden in plain sight, passwords memorized like mantras. This wasn't obsession, it was survival, it was strategy. He never saw it coming, and that's exactly why it was going to work. The voice recordings were the hardest to get. I had to play the part. Sweet, curious, slightly naive. I asked him one night casually, what would happen if someone at the clinic ever talked? And like clockwork, his arrogance took over. He laughed, said they wouldn't dare. Then he slipped. Besides, all the donor swaps were approved off record, no paper trail. I nodded, so I showed him the proof, by letting him incriminate himself. Rebecca was even easier. She liked to talk when she drank, and during a brunch, she invited me to, as some sick performance of superiority, I turned on the voice recorder in my coat pocket. She bragged about how she and William tweaked the files and bent a few ethics rules to get what they wanted. She even said I was too boring to ever fight back. I was deceived, yes, but I was done being underestimated. The ethics investigator, Marcus, couldn't believe the volume of evidence I handed over. Voicemails, emails, text threads, bank transfers, patient logs, tampered genetic records, all tied back to William. "This is surgical," he said. "You've built this like a professional." I smiled. "No," I told him. "I built it like a woman who's been pushed too far. She planned it all, and this was only phase 1. Every night, after tucking in my daughter, I would sit at my laptop, assembling timelines, matching data, connecting lies. I created a digital vault with everything, set to auto-release to the media and legal counsel if anything happened to me. Not paranoia, protection. Because stories of betrayal don't always end in the courtroom. Sometimes they end in silence, and I refused to be silenced. My lawyer drafted the pre-suit notice. The moment we served it, everything would shift. Williams, medical license, the hospital's reputation, their board's integrity, all of it was about to be dragged into the light. Still, I waited. I wanted the moment to be public, loud, unforgettable, not just for me, but for every woman he lied to, used, erased. She exposed him, not behind closed doors, but in front of the world. He kept walking around our house like nothing had changed, still charming, still smug, still believing the narrative he'd built, that I was nothing to him, that I'd break, retreat, surrender. But I was calm, focused, cold even, because I wasn't here for an apology. I was here for accountability, and the clock was ticking. I had witnesses lined up, 3 women from the clinic, 1 anonymous whistleblower from billing, and Helen, the nurse who stood by me from the start. Together, we rehearsed statements, reviewed documents, prepared for depositions. There was no doubt in anyone's mind now. This wasn't a domestic issue. This was an institutional scandal. The truth came out, piece by brutal piece. And still, I smiled at him over breakfast, played my role one last time, because I wanted the fall to feel sudden, sharp, public. He once told me I was predictable, that I wouldn't dare destroy what we built, but he broke me first, and now I had nothing left to protect except the truth, and the truth was loaded, legal, and coming for his empire. Everything was in place, and I knew exactly where it would all come crashing down. The restaurant where he once proposed to me, where he planned to celebrate his next promotion, where he begged her to come back would finally be reversed, because this time it would be him begging for mercy. He raised his glass for a toast. Then I handed him the DNA results and watched his world fall apart. I chose the restaurant for a reason, the same one where he got down on one knee years ago, promising forever. The place where we laughed, dreamed, made plans. It was poetic, and I wanted him to feel that. The weight of memory, the illusion of control. She planned it all, not just the confrontation, but the scenery, because some betrayals deserve to be unraveled on the same stage where the lies began. He walked in with Rebecca like they owned the night, polished, smug, celebrating his upcoming promotion, no doubt. They didn't see me right away. I was already seated, calm, waiting. My lawyer was nearby. So were Marcus and 2 board members from Ashford Medical Center. And just outside, the police waited in an unmarked car. He never saw it coming, and that made every second more satisfying. He froze when he spotted me, tried to cover it with a half smile. Rebecca whispered something in his ear. I stood up, took 2 steps, and placed a thick manila envelope on the table between their untouched wine glasses. No words, just presence, just truth. Inside that envelope was everything: DNA results, forged records, patient testimonies, and a notarized list of every ethical violation he'd committed. So I showed him the proof, and I didn't blink once. He didn't open it immediately, just stared at it like it might explode. "What is this?" he finally muttered. I leaned in. "Everything you thought I'd never find." Rebecca paled. She knew. Not all of it, but enough. I could see it in her eyes, the way she recoiled, the way she reached for her purse like she could outrun consequence. But the door was already closing. The truth came out, and it was louder than any scream. I sat down, slowly, poured myself a glass of the wine he used to order for me, took a sip. "This is how it ends," I said quietly, "with facts, with law, with accountability." He started to stammer, reached across the table. "Jennifer, please, can we talk?" I laughed, genuinely, because he begged her to come back, and now he was begging me for silence. Then the board members stood. One handed him a formal statement of suspension, effective immediately. No more surgeries, no more patients, no more title. And right on cue, the officers entered the restaurant. Calm, measured. They read him his rights as Rebecca stood frozen, eyes wide, mascara already smudging. And me? I didn't look away. I watched every second, every flinch, every ounce of ego bleed out of him. He turned to me, panicked. "We can fix this, please." I shook my head. "You fixed my life by destroying yours." That wasn't rage speaking. That was liberation. Cold, clean, final. I was nothing to him. And now, he was just a name on a legal file, waiting to be prosecuted for the life he built on lies. As the sign, officers led him out. Cameras flashed outside. Reporters waiting. Questions already flying. "Dr. Langston, did you falsify medical records? Did you knowingly deceive patients during IVF treatments?" I didn't need to answer any of them. She exposed him, and the world was watching it happen in real time. Rebecca fled first, quietly, cowardly, and I remained seated, finishing my wine. I glanced around at the same walls where he once promised me forever, and smiled, because he broke. Me first, but I'd rewritten every ending he thought he controlled. I stood up, walked out, head high, and behind me, his kingdom burned. He took my name, my trust, my future, so I took it all back and turned it into something untouchable. The headlines came fast. Renowned heart surgeon under investigation for medical fraud. Ashford fertility scandal explodes. Wife of Dr. Langston. Spearheads reform committee. I watched from my kitchen, coffee in hand, calm as ever. He wanted to erase me, replace me with someone younger, someone pliable. But she finally left, and the woman who rose from the ashes didn't come to play. She came to lead. The house felt different now. Not empty, just clean. Like I had saged it with the truth. I donated his clothes, sold the car, changed the locks. I didn't cry as I did it. I played music, danced a little, because freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it hums beneath your skin like a second heartbeat. She cried in silence, but now her silence meant peace. I took a call from Ashford's interim board chair 3 weeks after the arrest. They wanted me on the ethics committee, not as a token, as a force. As someone who had lived the violation and come back sharper, stronger. I didn't hesitate. He thought I would stay small, broken, hidden, but I was already standing in rooms he'd never be welcome in again. I walked into that first board meeting wearing the same earrings I wore the day I married him. Not as a memory, but as a message. I survived you, and now I protect women like me. We opened an internal audit. We launched new policies. I led the first training on informed consent. The truth came out, and now it had teeth. People started emailing me, women, mothers, even medical staff. You're the reason I'm speaking up. You gave me language I didn't have before. I thought I was crazy, until I heard your story. And every time I whispered, you're not crazy, you were betrayed. Stories of betrayal are too often silenced. But mine became a platform. I started a foundation. Small at first, quiet. Focused on fertility ethics, patient rights, and whistleblower protection. We built a digital archive, published resources, offered legal referrals. We even ran our first conference last month, standing room only. I opened it with the line, "He broke me first, and that's why I'm here." The applause lasted 3 minutes. My daughter asked me once, "Was Daddy always bad?" I knelt, looked her in the eyes and said, "He made bad choices, but we don't have to carry them. Because I was deceived, but she won't be. I'll raise her with truth, with strength, and with the courage to walk away when something doesn't feel right, even if it looks perfect on the outside. I walk differently now, slower, straighter. I don't flinch when I see someone in scrubs. I don't avoid the hospital district. I reclaimed it all, not just my name, my narrative. I don't need to shout. My silence is still my answer, but now it echoes in courtrooms, conference halls, and policy handbooks. And sometimes I still get messages. From him, they go unread, unanswered. He's lost everything. But me? I gained more than I ever expected. Not revenge, not even justice. Something better, real freedom. A life where my worth isn't measured by anyone's title, approval, or attention. And if he ever asks what happened to the woman he once married, I hope someone tells him. She became the kind of woman you only meet once and lose forever.